Welcome to America's Health Talk.
We at Immunotech have been given an endless pocket full of miracles. Dr. Gustavo Bounous has entrusted us with this gift, the miracle of Immunocal. What follows, an excerpt from a recent conference call, clearly stating Dr. Gustavo Bounous, a man of genius and a legacy that reaches around the world today. Oftentimes, with those of us that have been here for a long time, have known it and forgot it, or maybe never knew it at all. And you're going to learn some really, really wonderful stuff this evening. Welcome to the call this evening. My name is Keith Hoover. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this very special call regarding the new Dr. Gustavo Bounous Fund at McGill University and the information that was shown and where Dr. Bounous was recognized this past Friday at McGill for his contribution to medicine. And it's my pleasure to go down to Dallas, my friend and business partner for many years, Mr. John Solider, who was at that event. And good evening, John.
Good evening, Keith. Tonight.
Great.
What can I tell you about this past week that hasn't been shared yet with people, I guess, is on Friday afternoon we had a very, very, very special event located at McGill University, the Harvard of Canada for my fellow Americans, and certainly in Canada you are very familiar with your great McGill University and its international reputation, not only in academics but as a leader certainly in the development of people in the medical profession. And of course our own Dr. Gustavo Bounous taught at that institution, researched at that institution for many, many years, and has been closely associated with it. And as a result, we've had the benefit of being able to use that relationship with Immunotech and also with Immunocal, and in a very delicate way, of course, in a very tasteful way. But it is a major institution, and this past Friday they were honoring the legacy in the medical field as a researcher of Dr. Gustavo Bounous, and I was honored to be there. But, you know, Keith, before I get into that, I've shared this story with you, and I think I've shared it with Dan Murphy this past week, and I know I've shared it with Foster Owasu and Jim Northrup and others associated with Immunotech. But for the benefit of everyone on the call tonight, I want to share with you my recollection of the very first time that I met Dr. Bounous some 12 years ago. And I'll never forget this because it was around this time of year that I went down to Montreal to take a look at Immunotech, and I was familiar with the product already, and I'd had my mother using the product at that point, but went down to visit the company, and in doing so had an opportunity to spend about a half hour with Dr. Bounous. And I'll never forget this because the two people with me were as impressed as I was. And I'll never forget going into Dr. Bounous' office and chatting with him and introducing ourselves and, you know, going through the normal small talk. And he said, I have to apologize because I've just returned from Italy and my office is a mess. And you know, I apologize. And we said, you know, no problem. And he said, I was at the Vatican Library, and I was studying Hippocrates in Latin. Now, I just want to, you know, once again, help everybody get their head around this for a second. He was studying Hippocrates in Latin. Now, to my knowledge, besides the Pope, there's not too many people that speak Latin or read Latin and understand it in this day and age. And here was this gentleman telling us that he had just gotten back from studying Hippocrates in Latin at the Vatican Library. And needless to say, I looked at the two people with me, one of which was a person in the medical profession, and we just kind of all looked at each other in awe and said, we are amongst genius. And truly, Dr. Bounous is a genius. He has blessed us with this product to, most importantly, use ourselves, have our family, our loved ones to use this product and benefit from it, and at the same time, of course, be able to go out and market it and make a very good living in some cases or a part-time living in other cases, but more importantly, to once again benefit by this product. But that's a little bit of my first meeting with Dr. Bounous, but this past week was incredible in the respect that they had invited out some of Dr. Bounous' colleagues for many, many years. And of those colleagues, here's my recollection as a marketer. One was considered to be the leading cancer doctor in all of Canada. The second was a gentleman who is considered to be, once again, one of the finest doctors in Canada, who actually heads the surgery unit at one of the major hospitals there in Quebec, and also happens to be the team physician for the Montreal Canadiens, the famous hockey franchise located in Montreal. For those of you that are not hockey fans, the Montreal Canadiens, as well as the New York Yankees, as well as the Dallas Cowboys, are probably the three most famous sports franchises here in North America. So, the doctor from the Canadiens, once again associated with Dr. Bounous and talking about the benefits of Immunocal. And the third doctor who spoke that was not directly associated with Immunotech research was actually nominated for a Nobel Prize some years ago. So, once again, we not only have our own in-house genius in Dr. Bounous, but here were these other geniuses recognized as experts in their particular fields of medicine that are associated with Dr. Bounous. We're recognizing their relationships with Dr. Bounous. We're recognizing the learning that they had done from Dr. Bounous, and also showing him the respect that he certainly deserves, not only as a world-class medical researcher, but also as the developer of Immunocal. So, it was very, very significant for me as a marketer to sit there and listen to these great medical minds that were standing up for our product and also standing up for the gentleman who had introduced our product not only to the marketplace but to the medical field. And it was real interesting, Keith, also to hear the medical perspective on our product, because once again, these people weren't trying to sell anything. They were purely speaking of the benefits that they had seen from Immunocal, from the research, and from their relationships with Dr. Bounous, and also the great respect that they have for him as one of the leading minds in this particular area of medicine for the many, many years that he has been associated with, development of Immunocal, and also, the studies that have backed the product, the patents that have backed the product, etc. So it was very interesting to hear their comments on it. So needless to say, I was blown away. I was impressed. And, of course, finally we heard from our own Dr. Wolf Droga as well, who is in that category of genius. And, once again, the fact that he is part of what we're doing here at Immunotech, and that he is advising the company and kind of bringing the Immunocal product along in the years that Dr. Bounous is now retired, is significant that baton, if you will, has been passed from one great mind, Dr. Bounous, to Dr. Droga, to lead us into the next generation, if you will, with Immunocal. So, needless to say, it was an impressive day. It was a day that we really saw not only, what Immunocal can do, but the great people who support our product. And while they're not necessarily part of our company, they certainly are supportive of our company and our endeavors to take this product out in the marketplace and to help people to benefit from the great science that Dr. Bounous and his colleagues had developed through the years.
John and I and our families have had the pleasure of being here and experiencing this product for many years. But in a couple of minutes, I want to go up to our fabulous Dr. Barry White. Dr. White, you were at the event as well in Montreal.
I was, and again, just to be able to be there was an awesome privilege. This is really something very special. It gave me I already knew it, but again reinforced this, that Dr. Bounous is a man who's put a foundation in place that every single surgeon in the world now follows through. The comment was back in the 1960s, nutrition, called surgeons starved their patients before and after surgery because all they were doing was interested in the cutting process. Now every single surgeon in the world pays attention to nutrition, and maybe that's the thing that is evolving so rapidly right now. Every single field in the world, whether it's in sports or it's in surgery or all the rest, nutrition is becoming the companion piece that fits in every profession, no matter what it may be. And that really gave that perspective to that aspect. Here was a doctor that no one else had thought of this, no one else could figure this out, but he understood, because he's a surgeon and was able to demonstrate it, that the loss of blood, this hemorrhagic shock part, he could demonstrate why proper nutrition would solve and give the patient a much better chance of survival in the surgery. And out of that has come, in these 40-some years, almost 50 years following, a total reformation of how the world does its surgery and how it does. And one of the other pieces that, just to remind it again, we knew this kind of thing, but in the laboratory of these esteemed world doctors, wherever they may be in all of the world, they have ideas that some of them may never, ever get to the people that would benefit most, like us. But here was the genius part that not only saw a way to put new nutrition in place, but a way to bridge the gap, as Dr. Chu put it in, a way to bridge the gap and bring it out of the laboratory and put it into the hands of people like ourselves, so that we have the privilege then of standing with the giants, if you will, playing with the giants and bringing the genius that was there and being able to give it to the marketplace, to giving it to people. That perspective by itself was just awesome to just get reinforced again. When you are allowed to play with the giants on an afternoon, you come away with a real sense of, wow, I'm a part of this. Yeah.
Right place, right time, Dr. Berry?
Oh, awesomely so.
Well,
and maybe we don't. Sometimes we're just dealing with Immunocal Platinum, its products, and we get frustrated because people don't understand and so on. But when you get a perspective of how awesome this product is and the deep genius out of which it is grown, not only the man himself, but also the school and the environment of that. In the world, we have something that doesn't exist any other place. And this is Nutrition's Day, to bring healing and all the rest to the nation. We got it in our hands.
Well, thank you, Dr. Berry. And I know Lori Curry was at the event as well in Montreal this past Friday. Lori, maybe you can give your perspective as to what occurred.
Hi there, Keith. How are you?
Excellent.
Good. I really have to, obviously everything John and Barry has mentioned, I feel the exact same way. But you know what, from I guess I'll say a female's perspective, it brought me to tears. It was quite an honor to be there. And, when we heard the doctor speak and really pay tribute to the work of Dr. Bounous, and there was a standing ovation, and every one of us on the line has been touched, whether it be themselves or a loved one, touched in such positive ways with this product. And I guess I walked out of there with it's like Barry said, although we've known it, it's even stronger now. You walk out of there that we really don't know what we have in our hands. And when you heard of the, I guess you would call them trials and tribulations of Dr. Bounous and Dieter Beer, going through the trouble that they had over and over and over, but they kept persisting because, Dr. Bounous knew that this had to get to the marketplace. And, really it needs to be our mission to, as it is, but it's even stronger now, our mission to get it out there. But it was just really an honor to be there, because I really don't think we even get part of what we really have in our hands.
What a true genius, Dr. Bounous.
Absolutely.
Well, another gentleman had quite a journey to get to Montreal, and his journey began many years ago in Africa, and then brought him to Toronto, and then which was a short trip to Montreal. But after talking with him, you would think that trip from Toronto to Montreal was as dramatic as his trip to Toronto in the first place. Good evening, Foster.
Good evening, Keith, and indeed it's been a long journey, but let me say this. 1965 was the year that Dr. Bounous received that distinguished medal, and 43 years later, to be in the room, scientists, high-class, first-class scientists, attesting to Dr. Bounous' work. I was moved. I came back, and of course we spoke, and I was filled with a lot of excitement. But I must say this, to hear Dr. Jared Batiste, who most of us have read about in book Breakthrough in Cell Defense, sitting in the room, as a matter of fact, as a speaker, who devoted a lot of his time talking about glutathione and cancer, and he actually named that particular theme an exciting story. And I must say this, that, Dr. Jerry Batiste and all the other colleagues talk about Dr. Bounous' mentorship in the area of surgical nutrition. And you can't go as far as, 40 years and to have the same people who have known Dr. Bounous for years work with this man side by side 40-something years later, still attesting to Dr. Bounous' work as a breakthrough in nutritional supplementation. And there was a mentioning of the fact that Dr. Bounous was the first person to realize the health benefit of whey protein. And this, to listened to Dr. Chu, who talked about Dr. Bonous' attempt to bridge the gap between traditional medicine and nutritional supplementation. These are people who have been around the block, so to speak. These are scientists who are well respected in their field. And, all these years, they're standing by the same findings that we were told many, many years ago as distributors, and be confirmed by all these scientists in the room. My question was, could all these scientists be lying? Could all these scientists be telling, something that is not true? And, I love the place to say that if there's one thing that I'm going to do from this point forward is to have this unshakable belief, to press on and press on and press on and share this word, because as far as I'm concerned, since we've been in business for 12 years in Immunotech, 1996 to this day, there has not been one negative information about our product. So there's no need for anybody to put the brakes on. If there's a title to describe Dr. Bonous and the work that we're doing, it will simply be the value of one and the power of many. So over back to you, Keith.
Thank you, Foster. We appreciate you sharing your thoughts this evening. John, it sounds like many years ago we made the right decision, huh?
Well, I believe that we certainly did, and probably now more than ever. We've had a great product legacy here, but I truly believe that the best days of this company are ahead of it for a variety of reasons. And commitment level and the willingness today that Immunotech has to really not only go forward in the future, but to become a $500 million international marketing enterprise with an incredible cornerstone product like Immunocal, developed by Dr. Bounous and now supported by Dr. Wolf Droge. I mean, that's a story to tell. It's worth telling, number one, worth our time. Number two, worth our time financially to tell it. But most importantly, going back to Friday to see firsthand the respect level of the people in the medical profession towards the people who have developed Immunocal. And, that's what we saw last week. And, the future is very rosy here, to say the least. So the best days are certainly ahead of this company. And, despite the economy, and I know we're all certainly probably, keeping abreast of the news here. Certainly in the U.S. we are, and in Canada I'm sure you're following our wonderful news down here. But, what's interesting, Keith, and you and I had a conversation a short time ago with somebody in Virginia, and we referenced the fact that despite these economically difficult times, if anything, people are going to gravitate towards things that they know that they work, that they know that they are efficacious, that they know that they're supported by clinical trials, by patents, and that when they spend their money, they're going to spend it intelligently and are going to continue to spend it on a product like Immunocal in a much bigger way than they would any of the other types of supplementation that's out there with questionable science and questionable people supporting those products. So we are in a great place, folks. We just have to embrace that, take that message to market aggressively, and we have a foundation here that is built on very, very solid ground. So with that, Keith, I'll turn the call back to you.
Boy, John, absolutely. You and I have talked for many years on the fact that you're never any better than the people you're in business with. And Dr. Bounous and Dr. Droge and Dr. Gutman and all the other medical staff there have certainly led us to where we have with this great product. I'm sure you've enjoyed this. John Solider, Barry White, Lori Curry, and Foster Owasso. They have laid out clearly the genius of Dr. Bounous and the legacy Dr. Bounous has entrusted with us. So this is Keith and Sandra Hooper asking, what are you going to do with your pocket of miracles?
You're listening to America's Health Talk.